just a little bit of confusion in terms of the numbers that you were providing as to where you are in terms of revenue estimates. Are those numbers the all funds figures?
Yeah.
The revenues?
Right.
What about the $800 million you're supposed to get from the GRF? Where are you in terms of that goal?
Those numbers will be reflected in GRF, but we're moving money around in the controlling board, which will come out of GRF, so it's a non-accounting issues. So we're $630 million to the good.
In GRF?
Yes. So we're in. Yes, exactly. We're $2.5 billion under all funds.
Basically, $170 million in the Senate.
Depending on which revenue estimates you want to take.
Yeah.
And if you want to take LSC, we're underneath the number we need to be. So, that's a decision they can make.
What was the thought process with the Inspector General's term, extending that?
I think that was an opportunity for us to look at a nonpartisan issue that allow for the the Inspector General to carry over into another gubernatorial term, and then give a little bit of semblance of being able to have some kind of overlap, and no matter who, whether it's Republican or Democrat governors, be able to have that fold over. And then again, if they choose to keep them beyond that time frame, they can. So that's what we were looking at in that.
Why is it better to have that overlap, do you think?
Well, I think it's good just to have a little bit of checks and balances there and have that overlap. Whether it's a Republican to Republican or Democrat to Democrat or Republican to Democrat or Democrat to Republican, I think it's good to have a little bit of consistency there in the Inspector General's office for a little bit of time while a new administration is getting up and running.
Did Governor Kasich ask you to take out his tax proposals in the House budget plan?
It was part of the conversation. I appreciate the governor. The governor said everything's on the table, and that was part of the conversations that we had with him, and said this is probably something that we may do. It was $130 million that we took off the table immediately by doing it, so it was one of the issues that we went forward with.
There are some conditions in addition to moving the Medicaid expansion over to controlling board, there's some conditions in there that says if these conditions aren't met, the controlling board is not allowed to approve the funding, including if the feds don't, if there's some progress made on some of the waivers, and if the feds change the percentage of what they're covering. Why put those in there? Why not just leave it to the controlling board to make that decision?
Well, I mean, so the conditions that, it's, imagine if somebody sat on the waiver and didn't approve it, right? So it's a way for us to keep track of where we're at in the process and keep everything in line with where we're wanting to go, which is the intent of the General Assembly.
What do you want?
Are you basically keeping pressure on the administration to keep that?
Well, I certainly think it keeps conversations on, yeah, absolutely.
What do you want the people of Ohio to know about the budget that you passed here today?
I think we passed a sound budget that's balanced, that's under the rate of inflation, that's conservative. At the same time, it continues to hold government effective and efficient, and while making our number two priorities, education and tackling this opioid issue through the HOPES agenda, which is extremely important and we think is extremely huge priority for us.
Is it balanced right now, or is it?
I'm not going to answer that. We keep answering the same question. Yes, this budget is balanced. We passed a fiscally balanced budget with the numbers that we have to look at, and those numbers are going to change. This is a process. I think you all in the press corps understand that process, and come conference committee, we'll have another different look at it that's going to have different numbers, and we'll still have a balanced budget.
April revenue numbers are supposed to miss the target again by a significant amount later this week. Have you been told whether or not that has already been accounted for in that $800 million that you were asked to reduce?
No, I mean we're working off the numbers that we currently have, that we've been working since when was the last one, Dan? That January. So we'll wait and see what the April numbers are, and then again this thing's going to flex again. But let me just say this too. This is no different than any other budget time. The numbers shift, the numbers move, and we look at them all the time. In this case, we're seeing that there's been some decline. We thought it's best to make sure we start practicing restraint now in order to get this budget through. So that's what we did, and that's what we've put before the members of the House today that we just passed to the Senate.
The changes give more authority and oversight to the controlling board, including Medicaid, but also some other things in there, making sure that advertising and certain IT contracts are making sure they're going through controlling board. Can you talk about the that whole idea that you're ensuring the controlling board is playing a bigger, potentially a bigger role in spending of government money.
I think all in all, it's just about more legislative oversight and us having the ability to take a look at it. You take the instance of the Medicaid, for example, and trying to take back the eligibility and setting the rates. We still also in that area say that at certain extents, those things have to come back to the full General Assembly. It's on the eligibility side of it, I think. So, they can make an advisory opinion, but the legislature has to move on those things. So this is more about us trying to take back a little bit of our control and having the responsibility of that.
Is the restriction or the putting the advertising stuff through the controlling board, is that a direct response to the treasurer's decision to use all that money for advertising stable accounts?
Not necessarily. I think it's just for overall, just as a protection to put in for all agencies into the future, so that we have the ability to look at those funds and what's going on.
Okay.
Okay, thank you all.
Thanks, guys.